So now what we need to do is that we want to create a new page where the user will be able to search for a movie by its title. So I'm going to create here a new page. I'm going to create here first a new button or a tab here where once the user clicks on it, it's going to take him or her to a new page to search for movies. So first of all, I'm going to head on over to my project, and then in my project, we want to add that button in the index. If you open the index, here we want to add a new button. So I'm going to just copy this one, and then I'm going to paste it just below this one, below the penguins, and then I'm going to say here search. And then this search should take the user to a new page called search. So we need here to kind of go to that search or execute the function that's going to return the search page. So I'm going to say here search instead of movie by title. What I'm going to say here is that I'm going to say search underscore form, because this is going to take the user to the search form. And then in the index.py, I'm going to create a new root here. I'm going to create a new root, app.root, and then this is going to take the user to the search. So I'm going to name it search. I'm going to give it a URL of search, and then the name of the function must be search underscore form, because we have here, remember, we have named it, we have used the search form. So here should be search form. And then what we want to do is that we want to return to the search page. So I'm going to say here render template, and then we want to render the search. So I'm going to return to a page, to an HTML page called search.html. So we need to create this search.html. So in the templates here in this folder, I'm going to create a new file called search.html, and then we want to add code to this page, to this HTML page. So let me first explain what exactly am I going to add here in this search.html. So what I'm going to add here is that first I'm going to extend the index. This index, I'm going to extend it, because I want to use of course and display the navigation bar, and also I need also to display the search code here, the input for searching for a movie. So I'm gonna here say extend first. Here we say extends, and then we want to extend the index.html. And then what we want to do is that we want to add the search code, the code where the user would be able to type a movie by title and also click on a button. So what we want is that we want to add here some code, and we need to use the block here. We need to create a new block. So in the index, first we need to create here a new block exactly as this one. So I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it just above the search results, the block movies, and then I'm going to change the name of the block from movies to search. And then we can use this search to kind of inject the form where there will be an input and a button. So I'm going to copy this block, just the block search and the end block, and then in the search I'm going to paste this code, and then in between here we need to create the code type a code that is going to display an input and also a button. So I'm going to be using Bootstrap to do all of this. So let me here type this code where there will be basically two things. There will be the input and also the button. So let's get started with the input. So first I'm going to create a form, and then this form is going to have two things, actually three things. It's going to have two inputs, one input for the title and another input for the year, and a input for a button, actually a button, not an input. So we need to here create the div, and then that div is going to have a class called form raw, which is taken from Bootstrap. You can check that if you wish. And then this div is going to have inside it is going to have another div, and then this div is going also to have some classes. So the class for this div is column MD6. We want it to take 6 columns, and we also want it to have margin bottom of 3. And then inside that div, what we want is that we want the label and an input. So I'm going to first create a label, and that label is also going to have some attributes. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to say 4, and then equals to, and then I'm going to say here validation title, and then I'm going to say here title. And then we need now the input itself. So we have the label, and we need now the input. So the input is just going to have some attributes. The first attribute obviously is the type. The type is going to be text because this is a title. So the title must be a text. And then a name. A name is very, very important because we will be using it to kind of get the data from or text from that input. So I'm going to say here name, and then equals to, I'm going to give it a name of title. And then a class as well to make it look good. So I'm going to be using a bootstrap class called form control, and an ID if you wish to give it an ID as well. But I think an ID is not important here because we aren't going to add we aren't going to be using, for example, JavaScript for it. So I'm going to just give it also a placeholder to just give the user a better user experience, and I'm going to say title so that the user knows that this is for the title. And we also need to make it required because we cannot search for a movie unless we have a title in that input. So this is the first input. The second input is going to be for the year. So we will give the user a better experience by letting the user specifying the year as well, but the year is not going to be mandatory. So I'm going to create a new here, another input. So instead of creating this one more time, what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to copy this part, and then I'm just going to paste it just below it, and I'm going to change what needs to be changed. So what I'm going to change is that I'm going to change here the 4, I'm going to say year, let's say year, validation year, and the label is going also to be year. And then the type for this input should be number because this is a year, it should be a number. And then the name is going to be something else, it should be something meaningful. I'm going to say also year, and then form control, and then the placeholder should also say year, or just type a year, let's say 2025. And it shouldn't be required because the user can search for a movie without a year. And finally, we want a button. So here we want here to create a button. So I'm going to say here button. This button is going to have a class btn, a bootstrap class, and also btn primary, which is a very popular bootstrap class. And then the type is going to be submit, obviously, because we want to submit this form. And then we want just to type a text on that button. So I'm going to say search because we want to let the user know that this button will let him or her search for that movie. Finally, before I test, what I need to do is that I want to give the form itself a class. So this form, I'm going to give it a class column LG because I want this form to take the complete screen size, but I want the inputs to take only 6 columns. So the first input is going to take half of the screen, and the other input is going to take the other half. But the form itself is going to take almost the complete screen width. And then we want also to give it an action and a method. So this, I'm going to be working on this later, but it must take, of course, a method and an action. But let me just do that later because later it's going to be better to do that later in order to understand the complete process. Let me now save everything and head on over to the browser to test. So let me now go to the browser and then refresh, and now you should have a button here, search. If I click on it, guess what? It's going to take you to the search page, which is this page, which is this search, and then it's going to get the navigation bar and it's going to get the complete code basically from the index.html, because we are extending the index, and then it's going to display this form because we have kind of injected this code, this block, in the index.html, specifically in this block, in this search block. So now we have a search page in our web application.